My question has to do with things you've said about where an inspiration is then revealed as a truth, maybe in religion or in some other form, science, and then people out of the vortex turn it into a consciousness that evolves us in a direction we don't want to go or we do want to go. Those in the vortex take us in one direction, those out of the vortex might take people in the other.
Well, the thing...
And if I'm getting this correctly.
Here's what we're hearing you say, and let's take this a little further. It's always someone inside the vortex that discovers the inspiration or the revelation.
Right.
At the heart of every invention, every piece of expansion, every contraption even, at the heart of the philosophies, at the heart of every religion is someone who was asking, who managed to get somehow, some way into the vortex where they were able then to receive the revelation. But then, just as we've been talking about here today, just because you have received a revelation and just because you have written it down as precisely as you are able to articulate it, doesn't mean that someone not in the vortex can even begin to understand what it was. Mm-hmm. And so, as time goes by and history sort of bears out, a lot of people use the most inspired, loving, from source energy perspectives as their reason to try to control and conquer and kill.
Exactly.
In other words, when inspiration turns to protection, you've taken the concepts that were inspired and you're misconstruing them and misunderstanding them and misinterpreting them from outside the vortex.
So then a consciousness gets spread that really was not the original message.
But that's not really what happens. Mm-hmm. It's that those outside the vortex continue to create their reality.
Yeah.
And maybe it is framed up in new verbiage, maybe, but it was always outside the vortex. In other words, so let's contemplate this. You're going to like this. We're appreciating that you've queued it up here for us in this powerful way.
I want to know how to differentiate.
But here's something really interesting. Do you agree that inside the vortex and outside the vortex comparisons cause creation?
Yes.
So even if someone has misconstrued it, don't they just ask for more refinement of it? And
yes.
Aren't we here doing it, you see?
So Abraham is a collection of consciousnesses of many flavors. Is that right?
Abraham is a coagulated, coalesced, gathered consciousnesses.
Yes. So I can't think of anybody better to ask what the original inspiration of Moses, Buddha, Jesus, and Mohammed really was.
Not different than what's going on right here. In other words, it was always each of those that you speak of.
But there are many versions of each of those now.
But each of those that you're speaking of were experiencing contrast and the people who surrounded them also. And each of those individuals found their way into the vortex and received the fullness of that understanding to where it was then. But you see, the thing that is so distorted, and this is the biggest distortion. No one takes an inspired message and distorts it deliberately.
Right.
You know what distorts it?
What?
You are so going to love this because, and we are so eager to speak it to you. It's that one gets in the vortex and receives it and speaks it. And then others do different than our friend just now. Our friend just now said, I will go to my vortex and I will receive.
Right.
But whole generations of people say, you were the only one, so we will hold to the static content of what you spoke in a distant time to a different people with different intentions, with different questions. And we will try to take answers that applied then and apply them now. And they never work.
Jesus said, you will do greater things than I.
So,
is that what you're talking about?
It is what we're talking about. So what happens is the distortion comes because they try to hold to it. They try to hold to something that is fluid by nature. And we've had this conversation already here today, haven't we? Mm-hmm. That her vibration had already moved beyond, so the same old stuff wasn't getting it for her anymore.
Right.
And so this is what this conversation is about. Mm-hmm. So another comes forth and receives and expresses, and another and another and another and another. But this body of people says, oh no, we're not going with the new inspiration. We're holding to the old. And in fact, we will have war with you, you newfangled freak.
Right, exactly.
And then the next, and then the next, and the next. And so then you leave behind a trail of books and people trying to hold to things that don't apply to them. And in all of this, every one of those who were interpreting from this consciousness of expansion, every one of them was saying, reach forward to that which you have become. If you get back to the original content, that's what all of them were saying, you see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is humans outside the vortex that want to take concepts and put them into piles of right and wrong and good and bad, and then war with one another over the details. But religion is all outside the vortex, most of it, all outside the vortex. Politics, all outside the vortex, all outside the vortex, you see. Where inspiration is inside the vortex. So how often, Jerry talked about as a youngster and even on into his adult life, into his adultery, how often, as he was searching in this church and this church and this church and this church, he heard one common theme in all of them. This is the only true church. Yeah. And everyone else is our enemy. Everyone else is wrong. Everyone else, don't go there. We will excommunicate you. Don't go there. You're with us or you're against us. In other words, there was no understanding of diversity and balance and launching of rockets forward. There was no understanding of the common denominator of the source within all. And so that's what happens with so much in politics or religion or almost any discussion that you want to have. People outside the vortex feel threatened by anyone who doesn't agree with them. And which only means they don't have confidence and knowledge and belief about what they know. When you know it, you're not, when you know what you know, you're in the vortex and you're not threatened by those who don't know it. Mm-hmm. You're only threatened if you don't know it and want to know it and are afraid that they know something you don't know. You see, when you're in the vortex, Esther says as she listens to a variety of religious perspectives, as she listens to it from inside the vortex through the ears and knowing of Abraham, she finds harmony with all of them.
Right.
Harmony points with all of them, you see.
Right. I mean, I think it's profound what Buddha showed us about our thoughts, and that's what you're teaching us. And it's profound what Jesus did with seeing the wellness in people, and they were healed, and the love. I mean, there was no sin then, right?
Or ever,
right? So there's an essential...
Well, what sin is man outside the vortex's point of view when others are doing things that are not economically to his advantage.
Yes.
And so by getting the higher power involved, he can then move things in the direction of his desire.
Yeah.
And it happened then, and it happens now. But you are impervious to that when you come into the vortex. In other words, that's what we are talking about. There are greater laws and greater knowing. When you have spent your lifetime turning your guidance over to someone else, then the loudest one or the biggest one or the most powerful one is the one that you want to adhere to. But it takes you down this path and this path and this path further and further from your alignment and your enlightenment and who you really are. And in time, people become disillusioned, and then they begin saying, I want to know who I am. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know why I came here and how I can come into alignment with my reason for being here. And we say, it's the vortex.
So the same thing is really happening in science and in medicine too. I'm in the vortex and I am drawn to what will make me healthy, or I'm out of the vortex and please fix me.
Turning it over to someone else.
Right.
I'm incapable of finding my balance, and maybe you who is wiser than I can help me find my balance. And we say you're looking for love and balance and healing in all the wrong places.
But in the vortex, I will know what I will need for healing.
In the vortex, it lights up for you. And you feel an inspiration. You feel a compulsion. You feel an inclination. You feel an urgency. You feel that wild horses couldn't keep you from it. When you're in the vortex, it lights up so bright that it is undeniable. That's what Esther said to her mother. The day Esther tried to explain Abraham to her mother was a very hard day for her mother. And Esther regretted even going down that road because her mother could not hear it. And her mother performed the best she could the exorcism on Esther that she'd learned long ago. And we said to her, we are going to depart this conversation, not because you are commanding that we leave, but because we're upsetting you, and that is not our desire.
Right. Yeah.
And then Esther realized, as she was watching that whole evolution of all of that, as she realized that her mother was upset about something that she couldn't possibly understand, Esther just said to her mother, as quietly and gently as she could, Mother, something that feels this good and is this confirming and makes me feel this whole and this happy, that has this resonance with all that you've ever taught me, is what good feels like, can't be not good.
Yeah.
It just can't feel like this and not be good. It is undeniable, Mother. It is undeniable. Everything else was words, blah, 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 blah. This is resonance with the essence of that which I am, you see.
Could she get that?
Oh, she didn't get it. She didn't get it. She wants well-being. She wanted. She is now getting it. She's reemerged into it. But at that time, this took a different shape and form than what she had been taught or had come to believe was goodness. And so she was troubled by it. And so over the years, Esther just didn't talk about it. Esther just looked for common denominators and pointed out the things they had in common about the things that felt good to both of them.
So,
but it helped Esther to understand it's a startling thing to have believed in the wisdom of a woman, as Esther believed in the wisdom of her mother for so many years, and then came right up to this place where she realized that her mother was wise to a point on certain things, but there is a wisdom and a knowing that goes beyond what your mothers, what your teachers, what your government, what your laws. And this is the thing that we think it is a wonderful thing when young mothers know that, when young mothers say to their children, you have guidance within you. I have been the avenue to give you physical life, but you have guidance far beyond any guidance that I will give you. And it is my dominant intention, child of mine, to live as an example of finding my own alignment in the desire that I might inspire you to find your own alignment, but I do not want to be your guidance. I want to be an example of where you can find your guidance, you see.
And also listening to where the person is and helping them find their inspiration that will take them to that next knowing.
Well, look at it this way. If you're in the vortex, if life has reminded you that you are a teacher and you are wanting to uplift and assist others in finding the happiness that they so much want and deserve. In other words, no matter who they are and no matter where they stand, it is your dominant desire to be a catalyst of upliftment and enlightenment for them, you see. So as you're standing in the vortex and in alignment with that very powerful desire that you set forth even before your birth and that you've been contributing to mightily ever since, when you get into your vortex in alignment with that, law of attraction only brings you people who are ready for you.
Yeah.
You see. But if you're outside your vortex looking for them, they'll come, but they won't hear you. That's sort of what happened to Esther. She was there wanting to give Abraham to her mother who was not asking for Abraham.
Right.
You see. And that's something, you've all been there, haven't you?
Yes.